handout that I'm going to hand out to you. It's going to be the outline form, and my wife has that. She will give each and every one of you guys one of those. And we will begin to talk about that.
Thank you.
And it's reaching the loss in a changing culture. First, what I would just want to establish from each and every one that's here is, what do you believe culture to be? You know, what is culture to you? In your own words, you don't have to have a Webster's dictionary or anything like that. What do you believe culture to be? Brother Mills?
The behavior of a group of people.
Okay.
The way they respond to life challenges.
Okay.
Culture can be the way you look, and the way you dress, what
Okay.
you eat. Culture can deal with what you accept
Okay.
as values. So more along behavior of a group, not just one person.
Right. Anybody else?
I'll say beliefs.
Beliefs? Mother?
You know, I think parents don't bring their children to Sunday school like
There you
they
go.
used to.
That is so true. And everything you guys said is very key and very true. And Mother said a very key part, that parents doesn't bring their children to Sunday school. Parents play a very important role in shaping the culture of their children, because what you brought up in, what you taught, and all those things affect and shape your culture. If you've never been brought to church or taken to church, the odds are when you're an adult, you're not going to be going to church, because you was never raised in that type of environment or that type of culture. That's why the Bible is so true and it's so real. It said, train up a child in the way that it should go. So when he's older, he should not depart from it, but he should come back to the faith. Doesn't mean he's not going to stray. Does not mean that he's going to do some things and make some mistakes, or he or she going to do some things wrong. But that foundation, that biblical foundation, it's in them, it's planted, it's rooted. You put it in them, so therefore it's going to come back when they begin to go through things in their lives, and they begin to face some trials and some tribulation. That biblical foundation is there. You have seeded that in them, and therefore they have something to stand on and always revert back to. So that's one thing about our culture today. You see our culture today for the first time in years, that this is a generational culture who's unchurched. So the church has to deal with all of that. We have to find out ways to reach the lost in a changing culture. And that's what we have to find out, what works. And sometimes the culture, what people don't realize also is a hindrance to a lot of churches today, is timeliness. Because today we live in that's very timely. People's time is very important to them now. You know, you hear people like, well, I would go to church, but they hold too long. So those are different things that we have to consider today as we're doing some things. We might have to adjust our services. We might have to have an early morning service for people. And schedules are so different today. And if you go back 40 or 50 or 60 years ago, you didn't have two people working in the household. You didn't have where jobs were working on Saturday and Sunday.
But also you have a family diversity like you never had before.
That's so true.
You have family members going to different churches.
Yes, you do.
And if a church asks you to commit your time, it's really taken away from that diverseness of their family.
Yes, it does.
Sometimes you have a mother at this church, a father at this church, and a child at that church. And that timeliness makes all the difference in the world, because they's already going in three different directions.
Right.
And so that's another conflict of our culture and the dynamic change that has taken place that's not easy to minister in.
That's right. That's right, because if the mother is at one place and the father's at another place and the child may be at another place, then what you're going to have some issues, because everybody's coming in with something they've been taught very differently. You know, so you don't know what John Doe is teaching over here, and you don't know what Sally Sue is teaching over here. Sir.
But then you get into Father's Day, Mother's Day. So then you get into graduation. this church having a graduation, but you have something going on in your church. My mother goes over here. I'm a pastor, an elder here. Is it right? Should I pull her out of her place of, worship and where she's been groomed all her life to perhaps to be with a son? Or does the son just stop in his ministry and move over here? So those are the diverseness that I think when we go into ministry, we need to, when we pray, we need to be praying is, Lord, give us the wisdom how to pull that unity, get some type of unity, and like you said, without abuse. Because then the time is the most crucial element that you have.
Time and time is very important, and that's one thing we have to really understand. Like I said earlier, people's time today is very crucial. It's very important to them. People does not waste time anymore. And if you don't have something very strong going on at your church that attract them, you only have one time to make a good impression.
That's true.
One time. And when they come in there, the first impression you make is what they're going to leave with. And if it's not a good impression, they're not going to return. They're not going to come back. And then with that, word of mouth is very crucial, because then they're going to say, you know what? I visited that church. I didn't get a very good feeling. The people was not loving. They was not acceptable to me. And I just wouldn't go back there. So that's another thing which is shaping our culture today. So we have to understand that there's a lot of things that shapes our culture. And I wrote down some things about culture. It said culture, refined ways of thinking, talking, and acting. There's also your values, your beliefs, your customs that are shared among people. And people share their values, they share their beliefs, they share what they believe in. So it's very important that you make a good first impression. And we got to refine our ways of thinking, we got to refine our ways of acting, we got to refine our ways of how we do business. It's not business as usual. It's not church as usual. The culture is different now. We have to understand that. The young people are different now. The old hymns that we sung, that don't attract them hardly anymore. You got rappers now in the church. How you going to deal with that? You got gospel rappers. You got all kind of things. So we have to look at all those avenues and see why where churches are not growing. What's keeping us from expanding?
I think one element that I know that the church has drifted from, and this place is an example. There's no travailing in prayer.
Oh, man.
I never went to, and our coming up, whenever you went to church, people were on their knees. It was normal to go into a church and some mother or some father or someone beat us there way in advance, interceding. That's something that we don't see. Now, we'll have prayer, but they call it special meeting. Special time. We're going to have a day of prayer. But the culture has so changed, even in the church setting, that's almost an offense. If you come into a setting like this and just start praying, when you think the saints will come in and kneel with you, it's almost like you created a spiritual crime of some sort. So that culture has definitely changed.
The culture. Go ahead.
Just to tack what you're saying, the culture today is hurry up and get it done. That is where our culture is leading us to, because of the different technologies that has come into play. We have everything needs to be quick, microwave, not sit down and sit, come to and kneel in prayer. They want you to stand. They want you to pray for no more than 2 minutes and go on and move to the next thing. And not realizing that when my grandmother and my mother, when they were coming along, during their culture, it was totally different because they reverenced God. So much so till they dare not come into his house or to a place of when they have his service and not kneel, at the altar or at their seat and pray. And I've seen it happen so many times, but we don't even teach about really what is prayer. Some people don't even know how do I pray. People are asking those questions because we have people coming in unchurched and they don't know. And they're part of the culture today, what they see on the outside, and we should be showing them what we are about on the inside.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. That is so true, because thing about it is too, and culture even